This video is brought to you by SoccerPro.com, offering everyday low prices on all the latest soccer gear with no membership fees. Don't forget to use coupon code SR4U at checkout for 10% off any order of $75 or more. Hey guys, Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you a comparison video today between the Adidas Copa Mundial and the Nike Premier. Now before we go any further, I just wanted to mention that if you are looking for more details on either of these two models, be sure to check out the full written reviews on my website, SoccerReviewsForYou.com. You'll find links to both review pages down below in the description. And also, if you guys want to check out my video review / playtest of the Nike Premier, I'll leave an annotation on screen as well as a link down below. Now, as far as comparing the Adidas Copa Mundial to the Nike Premier, you're basically comparing old school versus new school, but the new school shoe is trying to mimic the feel of the old school shoe, if that makes any sense to you guys. And that's really what I want to kind of clarify in today's video, is yes, they're trying to be the same style of shoe, but they're not the same really at the end of the day. Keep in mind, both of these are fantastic models and you're going to be happy with either choice, but I want to clarify in today's video what the exact differences are and hopefully allow you to make a better decision if you are interested in either of these two models. Now, to give you a little bit of a backstory on the Adidas Copa Mundial, it is probably the most iconic soccer shoe or football boot of all time. Adidas has been making this shoe for what seems like forever, the exact same way. It's still made from the same kangaroo leather upper. The shoes are made in Germany, they're built to last, and overall, you're not going to find too many people that have bought a pair of Copa Mundials and were not happy or completely satisfied with their purchase. It's just absolutely a fantastic soccer shoe. Now, the story behind the Nike Premier is that Nike wanted a shoe to compete with the Copa Mundial. Of course, they do have the Nike Tiempo Legend 4, which is kind of more modern take on a classic shoe, whereas the Nike Premier, which is what I have in my hand here, is kind of just a more slimmed down, more traditional, more simplistic styled version of the Tiempo Legend, if you will, something that is designed specifically to compete with the Adidas Copa Mundial. And I feel like Nike has done a really good job, but at the same time, the shoe doesn't lack modern elements, which is something that I think a lot of people have complaints about with the Copa Mundial. It has aged over the last 30 years or so, and there definitely are some major differences between a Copa and a Nike Premier in terms of what you're going to feel and the overall performance of the boot, which is what I'm going to explain in today's video. Now, to start with the upper materials, the Copa Mundial is made from a full kangaroo leather upper. The quality is absolutely fantastic, and it has a really nice thickness to it, as you guys can see. It's a lot thicker than most of the kangaroo leather uppers you're going to find on most modern day soccer shoes that do feature kangaroo leather, and for that reason, it's very durable. It's incredibly soft and just provides a great touch on the ball. The tongue itself is also made from leather. Normally it would have a big flap, but I have removed that on my pair of Copas, which is what I have here. If you want to see that video and have a see a lesson on how to remove the tongue on your Copas, if it's something that interests you, I'll leave an annotation on screen again, as well as a link down below in the description. And overall, it's just a very high quality shoe. You do have your 3 Adidas stripes on either side that actually act as like an anti-stretch mechanism, but for the most part, the shoe fits very tight from right out of the box and will stretch to form to your feet. And that's really what's so great about the Copa, is that it really does fit pretty much all foot types. But with the release of the Nike Premier, the same thing can pretty much be said about the Nike Premier as the Copa Mundial. It will fit pretty much anybody. Now, there is a lot of speculation as to what exactly the upper is made from on the Nike Premier. A lot of websites are publishing this as goat leather, and that's not the case at all. The shoe was originally going to be goat leather when the whole kind of concept was drawn up by Nike, but before production started, they transferred that and changed it to kangaroo leather. So the upper on this shoe is pretty much a full kangaroo leather. There are some kind of different types of leather or synthetics on the shoe, especially in the heel area, just to cut down on weight, and it's not really necessary for the heel of the shoe to be made from leather, but it's still a very soft kangaroo leather upper. You can see how soft and pliable it is. It's definitely a lot thinner and a lot kind of closer to the foot feeling than the Adidas Copa Mundial for that reason. I would actually argue that this is softer than the kangaroo leather on the Copa Mundial. For that reason, it's not going to be quite as durable either, but if you're looking for a less bulky feel, you're going to get it from the Nike Premier in comparison to the Copa Mundial. And that's really the major difference between both of these two shoes, is that the Nike Premier has all of that classic feel, but without any of the extra bulk. The tongue itself is actually made from a thinner synthetic material, as you can see, with a strip of memory foam running through the middle to kind of kind of even out the thickness of the tongue and the rest of the upper, so it feels very, very good. So when you're striking the ball or juggling the ball or whatever it might be, it doesn't feel like the ball is kind of sinking into your shoe. You still get that very, very responsive feel, but when you're making touches on the rest of your foot, you get the soft touch of the natural kangaroo leather, which on the Copa Mundial, it's kind of a more bulky feel overall, all the way across the foot. If that's your thing, you're going to love the feel of the Copa Mundial. But if you want something that's a little bit slimmer feeling and not quite as bulky, then you're probably going to take a look at the Nike Premier. Now, as far as the cut and heel, you can see that the Nike Premier is cut a little bit lower than the Copa Mundial, so it is for that reason a little bit less supportive, I would say. But I wouldn't say that it's less comfortable. The liner on the Copa Mundial is like a synthetic leather material, and there's not much padding at all, although it does fit really, really well. Whereas the Nike Premier has like a synthetic suede, or probably a natural suede liner, going all the way around the heel as well as the ankle collar, so it locks your foot in place, and overall is just very, very comfortable. Another benefit of the Nike Premier that the Copa Mundial just does not have is the removable insole, which is something that pretty much all of the high-end new shoes have, whereas none of the old shoes have that. And the foam insole itself has some really good cushion to it, and it's just something that is going to provide that nice step in comfort that you just don't get with the Copa Mundial. The insole is non-removable, and the foam itself is kind of old school. It doesn't provide too much in the way of cushioning. And for that reason, you're going to get a lot more kind of step in comfort from the Nike Premier than you will get from the Copa Mundial. Another thing that you'll notice as far as differences go is the actual shape of the shoe. The Copa has a very old school shape about it, and you can really see it in the sole plate. The Premier has actually a much wider lash through the forefoot, midfoot, and heel, not only to provide a more kind of comfortable fit, but also to be a lot more supportive because it does have that slightly wider base, whereas the Copa Mundial really relies on the leather stretching, and your foot will actually hang off the side a little bit once the shoe has overstretched, which we'll see a little bit later in the on-feet portion of the video, whereas the Nike Premier is really designed to kind of hold your foot in place and keep everything tighter, and overall just feels a lot more modern than what you'll get from the Copa Mundial, which I think for most people, they're going to prefer the feel of the Nike Premier on their feet than they will the Copa Mundial. And that's not to say that the Copa Mundial feels bad, it just has that more modern feel that I think most people are used to nowadays. Now, as far as the sole plate goes, again, this is another big difference. The Copa Mundial has a very thick plastic sole plate, as you can see, which is great for durability and great for eliminating stud pressure, but not so great for flexibility and just feel of the studs themselves. You can't really feel too much under your feet, which is okay. It makes for a comfortable feel, but in terms of having that optimal traction, you don't have that kind of sensation that the shoe is moving at one with your foot, if you know what I mean. Whereas the thin TPU sole plate on the Nike Premier is very flexible in pretty much all directions, and you really can feel the studs under your feet just a little bit, so you have a better sense of grip under your feet. Not to mention that the studs themselves are also a little bit different. The stud pattern on the Copa Mundial is classic. It's around on lots of shoes. The Copa is not the only model that uses this particular stud pattern. You're going to find a very similar stud pattern from other brands as well. You've got your 4 studs in the heel, all conical of course, and then you have your 4 on the outside of the forefoot, your 3 on the inside of the forefoot, with 1 support stud in the middle. The studs themselves are pretty good in size. They're not overly long or aggressive, and they don't penetrate the ground particularly well, but they do provide some pretty good traction on firm natural grass playing surfaces, whereas the Nike Premier features a kind of unique take on that particular stud pattern. Instead of having only 3 on the inside of the forefoot, they've placed 4, similar to what you're going to find on the Nike Tiempo Legend. And you can see the profile of the studs themselves are a lot narrower. They're about the same length, but because they're narrower, they tend to penetrate the ground a little bit more easily. So I found that grip at push-off is a little bit better in the Nike Premier than what you're going to get in the Copa Mundial. The last thing to talk about is price. You can pick up the Nike Premier for as low as $90 US, which is very, very affordable, whereas the Copa Mundial retails somewhere around $120 now, which is not necessarily expensive, but it's $30 more than the Nike Premier for a shoe that a lot of people might view as inferior to the Nike Premier. And again, I don't want to say that one is better than the other. They're just different. If you want the more old school feel, I would definitely go with the Copa. And if you want something that has that old school feel, but with the modern elements included, I would definitely take a look at the Nike Premier. So that's pretty much it as far as the comparison goes. And I'll move on to a quick weigh-in so you can see what the difference is in weight. Weight is one of the major factors that a lot of people like to consider nowadays when buying a pair of soccer shoes, and for that reason alone, a lot of people tend to look away from the Copa just because it doesn't have that lightweight feel of most modern soccer shoes. Now, this is one of the benefits of the Nike Premier, and it's just one of the areas where the Copa Mundial hasn't necessarily aged all that well. So for the sake of comparison, I'm going to weigh in both the Nike Premier and Copa Mundial so you can see what the difference in weight actually is. Keep in mind that these are both the exact same size, and they're both used pairs as well. well, so it's a very fair comparison. So we're going to throw the Copa Mundial on the scale first. Not sure what the listed weight, but it's kind of irrelevant. The actual weight right here is 10.4 ounces. So for how solid the shoe is and how durable the shoe is, that's not actually a lot of weight, although it is a little bit more than your average soccer shoe nowadays. They tend to weigh in somewhere around 9 to 8 ounces. So we'll take that off the scale. We'll throw on the Nike Premier, and you can see that these guys weigh in at 8.7 ounces, so they're actually in that 8 ounce range, which is even lighter than the Nike Tiempo Legend 4. And for a full kangaroo leather soccer shoe, that is an actually very impressive number. The shoes feel very lightweight on your feet, and considering the comfort level that you get from the Nike Premier, it feels as if you're wearing a leather sock as opposed to a soccer shoe, which is something that you can't really say about the Copa. It still kind of matches the Nike Premier in comfort, but it doesn't have that same lightweight feel. So that's pretty much it as far as the weigh-in portion of this video goes. And to move on to quick on feet so you can see how these shoes fit and what the sizing is like. Alright, here's a look at the Copa Mundial and the Nike Premier on feet. And when you're comparing the two when it comes to fit, you're talking about an old school fit in the Copa, whereas the Nike Premier has a much more modern fit overall. Now the Copa Mundial has a very comfortable fit about it once you've given the shoe about 5-6 hours of break-in time to allow the leather to stretch. From right out of the box, it has a very tight fit about it, especially in the toe box and forefoot area. Like I mentioned earlier, I showed you guys the base of the sole plate. It's a lot more pointed and more narrow than you might expect. So once the leather does stretch, your foot will hang off the outside of the sole ever so slightly. It's not uncomfortable, it's just the way that the shoe is designed. Whereas the Nike Premier has that wider base all the way through, so your foot's not necessarily hanging over the edge. It will a little bit once the leather has stretched, but overall it's much more comfortable from right out of the box and requires a lot less in the way of break-in time. It also stretches a lot easier, I found, because of the thinner leather, and it has much less stitching going through the forefoot area, whereas the Adidas Copa Mundial just feels like a lot more rigid and a lot stronger overall. It's probably how the shoe is built and just the thickness of the leather. So as far as durability goes, I think it's still going to be pretty difficult to beat out the Copa Mundial. As far as sizing goes, both of these shoes are pretty messed up. The Copa Mundial is really off as far as their sizing goes. I normally wear a size 9 in pretty much 90% of soccer shoes, but in the Copa Mundial I had to go down to a size 8 US, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. Again, if you guys are looking for the best sizing advice on either of these two shoes, I strongly recommend going ahead and checking out the full written reviews on my website, which are linked down below in the description. So instead of wearing a 9 in the Copa, I went down to an 8, and the fit is absolutely perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair for yourself, I would strongly recommend going a whole size down. Now as far as the Nike Premier goes, I know a lot of people have the kind of instinct of going a half size down in leather shoes because they'll stretch, but the Nike Premier actually fits a half size small. Normally I would wear a size 9 US, but I had to bump it up to a size 9.5, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you're looking to order a pair of Nike Premiers, I would strongly recommend going a half size up for the best possible fit. So that's pretty much it as far as comparing the shoes in terms of how they fit and what the sizing is like, and to move on to my final thoughts. So, which one is better? It's kind of a tough call. The Copa will always be a classic model, and I'm sure Adidas will continue to produce the shoe itself. But is it the best choice for somebody who's not used to wearing an old style soccer shoe? Yes and no. If you're looking to try something new, the Copa is definitely a great option. But if you want that old school feel while still maintaining some of the modern elements that you're used to, then I would definitely take a look at the Nike Premier. Not to mention the price point of the Nike Premier being at only $90 US is better than pretty much any takedown model out there, and the quality for your money is absolutely fantastic. So these are both fantastic options. It just depends on your own personal preferences. I love both of these shoes, but I have to say that I really enjoyed wearing the Nike Premier. It's a fantastic boot and a great new addition, and definitely a worthy competitor of the Copa Mundial. So that's pretty much it as far as my comparison video go, guys. Again, if you want more details on both of these shoes, be sure to check out the written reviews on my website, soccerreviewsforyou.com. You can find links to both review pages down below in the description. On those same review pages, you're also going to find buy it now links with the best prices online, including exclusive SR4U coupon codes to get yourself some additional discounts if you are interested in ordering either of these two shoes for yourself. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest soccer gear. You can find all of my social media links down below in the description. And other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.